Such a pleasure to have all you delegates joining us. May I also please request you to click pictures in the photo booth and post with our hashtag ET Women in Tech. I'd also like to encourage you to share your thoughts with the world. So keep tweeting on the Twitter wall, which is available in our lobby. As we look forward to this day being very, very interactive, I'd like to request all of you to please send in questions for our expert speakers. I'm sure they'll be very, very glad to answer the same. Before I introduce our next speaker, let me take a moment and thank our partners. I'd like to thank our presenting partner, Dell Technologies, our gold partner, Cashier Technologies, Informatica, Cloudera, Fiserv, IBM, MediaTek. Let me also thank our associate partners, Tata Teleservices and Checkpoint. Of course, it's a pleasure to have all of you here at the event brought to you by Femina and ET Edge. As we get set for our address on shaping a sustainable future with digital, it's an absolute delight as I welcome Dr. Neeta Verma, Director General, NIC Government of India. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Your Digital India program was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister in the year 2015. This primarily with the focus to empower people with the power of technology. This program was built on three important pillars: infrastructure, digital services, and digital empowerment through education, through enablement. So inclusion was at the core of Digital India program, which was basically focused on accelerating the pace of digital transformation across all sectors, government, private, as well as social sector. And since then, a lot has happened. We have already witnessed mobile revolution in the country along with broadband, internet access, mobile access is now available in nook and corner of India. Though the affordability of devices still continues to be a concern, but a lot of schemes have been launched recently under Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme to even bring these devices on a much more affordable cost. With this now mobile getting onto this, and COVID has further accelerated this path. As a result, today people even in those remote areas able to not only access, or children can educate themselves, they can have teleconsultations, because education and healthcare for all has been always a concern. And through this technology, and as we move to more and more affordable devices, we will be able to really have empower these people with education and health. Look, inspired by this adoption and the kind of mobile revolution in government also, we are continuously working towards making more and more government services cashless, paperless, and now faceless, so that the need for anyone to visit any government office to avail any service can be completely eliminated. A lot has been achieved, and you will see a lot more happening in the next 1 year or two. Another important thing which has happened, which has really led towards digital inclusion and really helping people, is direct benefit transfer, in which using the technology platforms, we've been able to transfer subsidy directly to the bank accounts of the individuals, be it the scholarship for the children, be it pensions or social pensions, be it payments under Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, or payments under PM Kisan. Through this, now if you couple it with this UPI and digital payment, now these people in this rural, whether they are laborers or they are farmers, they need not take off and walk to the nearest bank branch to withdraw their money and spend. With digital payments and UPI, they can buy and then Aadhaar enabled payment system, they can buy their ration through digital payment, they can buy their fertilizers through these POS machines which is available, they can charge their phones, and many other things can be achieved. So the need, so which has really empowered them. Otherwise, in the earlier times, they have to really take a day off, walk to certain kilometers, incur that cost, and then withdraw their own money. Similarly, another segment on which we really focus when we talk of inclusion in the society is about the people with different abilities, or to whom we fondly call them Divyangjan. Government has a scheme, Sugamya Bharat, which is making effort on not only all physical accessibility, but a lot of effort is on digital accessibility, internet accessibility, or universal accessibility. As an IC, we have brought guidelines for Indian government websites, which basically guides all Indian government digital presence, whether it is services, whether it is websites or portals, to be universally accessible, because our belief is that these people can also be hugely empowered who are physically challenged, who are visually challenged, or have any other kind of disability or different kind of ability, can be really empowered using these technologies. And a lot of focus and a lot of monitoring is being done on this aspect to make sure that we really make universally accessible country for seamless access to these people, as is the normal focus has been there. If we come towards sustainability, if you look at a typical government office, there is a lot of paper. It's generally characterized with a lot of paper around. So over the last, I should say, 10 years, we've really worked with the, as an IC, we not only work with central government ministries, department, we work with state governments, as well as we work with district administrations. We have 800 offices pan-India, working with different level of administration. And we've really worked through our digital products to make these offices almost close to paperless. And this is now started, and during COVID, this whole adoption has actually reached another new scale for the reasons known to this thing. With this, not only offices are becoming paperless, it has also enabled people to work from home. And therefore, as government came for work from home policy for the industry, at the same time, we've also built this work from anywhere solution for the government people, so that they could not only work from home when they're traveling, when they're on different move, they could also work in a seamless manner. So a very secure and safe platform has been created for all government employees, which can be used, which can be taken up and adopted by any government institution. It is our e-office solution, which is a digital office, which makes office functioning completely paperless, is already working in 600 government institutions, which includes around 30 state governments at the same time. Similarly, the procurement process of government has been completely digitized. There's no paper needed. It can be completely paperless process. This time you have seen even the budget placing in the parliament was completely paperless. There was no paper distributed, no paper printed as far as budget is concerned. Human resource management or complete government's fund flow management till the last mile has all been made paperless. This whole thing, and then lastly, the video conferencing. As you've seen, now video conference meetings have become a new normal. Not only our within government meetings, government to private meetings, you must have witnessed many times, as well as various public events, all are happening on video conferencing. This is really going forward. As you see, this is not only going to save a lot of time and efficiency, this is also going to reduce travel to a great extent as far as government meetings is concerned. So in all, if you look at it, by reducing paper, by reducing travel, the whole government is getting more towards green kind of a concept. There is the impact on environment is really getting, we're trying to minimize it as much as possible. So and that has been a continuous endeavor, and we continue to work in that direction. Another thing, to make government sustainable, we also need to see that the operational cost of these digital systems which we build is also kept to the minimum, so that we could sustain it for a long time. As you know, most of these systems offer services free of cost, so you need to really keep those costs really at the minimum. So what we basically do is we have an open source policy. So our default choice to build any digital solution or digital product is open source software, which really gives us a lot of leverage in terms of keeping our operational costs very, very low. It also gives us other advantages of maneuverability or giving in customizability and a lot of scope for innovation at the same time. Another aspect which we focus is that we run these, Other than building systems, we also run IT infrastructure for the government. So whenever you are availing any IT service, either it is exam results, whether trying to see your judicial cases, judgments and orders, or you see various government schemes, the complete DBT, all government schemes, funds transfer to the citizens, or you get your vehicle registered, or GST, e-way bill, all these happens through our data centers, which are pan-India. We have launched recently, Prime Minister's launched our 6th data center, which is specifically focused on Northeast requirements. Now, these data centers, by their typical nature, are quite resource intensive on all fronts. So we have early on in 2014-15, we have moved all our new cloud, and over the time, all the services have been now moved on cloud, and which has given us not only a very high order of efficiency in our resource utilization, it has also helped us in keeping our resource consumption, whether it is power, whether it is water, whether it is cooling, or even real estate for that matter, to a very low mark that way. So that's another effort which we continuously put, and we are effort towards going cloudification of things as much as possible, making them more and more advanced, is kind of goes on and on. Within an organization also, we are a quite gender equitable organization. We have women at a very senior positions. In fact, you will be surprised to know that most of our deep tech technology domains are being handled by women. And I think a lot of credit goes to our founder director general, because right in the beginning there was I mean, forget about discrimination, there was a lot of opportunity available, and lot of flexibility available in those early days. I'm talking of late 80s, early 90s, and which kind of enabled we as women an equal opportunity to learn new things, to lead new things. And I think it is that continuous culture which has over the time has been brought into the organization, that today we have such a nice balance of gender diversity within the organization. And I strongly believe that we as women who are at senior position also have this responsibility to maintain these culture in the organizations and help these women, younger women, take up these senior roles. Because my personal perception has been that many times women have a lot of capability, but because of the cultural upbringing or because of the societal this thing, they often hesitate to take up leadership roles. They kind of lack a bit of a confidence, I should say. So mentoring those people, giving them opportunities, maybe giving the opportunity to develop their leadership skills at an early on will really help them taking up these lead roles, and we'll have more and more women at leadership position. So that is something we internally practice onto this. We also feel that a lot of these new technologies, particularly artificial intelligence, has a lot of scope in digital empowerment of people at the bottom of pyramid, because today they are challenged. Not only connectivity to a great extent has been sorted out, but the challenge of language, the challenge of literacy continues to be there. And I believe with artificial intelligence, text to speech and language to language conversion, we will have a lot of potential in bringing these people in the fold of technology and enabling them to empower themselves in many ways. And therefore, we have set up Center of Excellence in these technologies, and we're developing a lot of pilots and POCs through which we can deploy these technologies in the mainstream to help these people come forward, whether it is teleconsultation, where people can access health services while sitting at their remote areas, or whether it is education for the children at various places, so that they can empower themselves as well as a child sitting in an urban center and maybe studying in best of the school in India. So a lot of effort, and I personally believe this whole thing can really transform us to another new level, and therefore we are putting all kinds of efforts to empower people to the extent we could. and I can only assure you, and I can say on behalf of NIC that we are fully committed to this cause and working to the fullest to achieve this. Thank you. I would also take this opportunity to thank you organizers for having me here. It was a pleasure talking to you all.